Hey everyone, this is day 5 with my California Extreme Makeover Mustang, and we hauled back over here to the neighbors, which I think this is like our 3rd day in a row doing. I think my goal with her is I'm going to run through a bunch of warm-up exercises right now, and then I'll tack her up a little bit faster than I did the last session, and then I might start hopping around her, maybe putting a little bit more weight around her wither area, seeing if I can hop up there, how she feels with that. It probably won't be too crazy of a session today, but still making progress in every little section. So just like day 4, we're going to warm up with some exercises again. Right now I'm just asking her to go out on her lunge circle. You see I start light, but then I have to get after her a little more. And like I was saying, this mare's biggest issue is just wanting to be on top of you, so that's her hardest thing, is getting her to go further away. But you can tell that her trot on the line is a lot softer now. She still gets a little bit confused about holding it steady, so I'm just there to reinforce it. Again, ending with that hindquarter yield, and that was a lot better. She didn't come up to me afterwards. And I do want to eventually teach her how to draw in and come up to me, but now I want her to keep her distance and know what boundaries are. So we're changing directions, and she actually goes into a side pass there, which when we were doing that I thought was kind of interesting. We haven't worked on side pass yet, but she had already started to understand that me tapping on the ribs was for her to move out and away. So it was kind of cool that she did side pass there, but I also needed that forward movement from her. I'm just going to keep gently encouraging her to go forward. Good, she's a cute little mover when she actually gets going. When she's tracking right, her hindquarter yield is a little bit more sloppy, so I'm going to really reinforce this. I went up to her afterwards. Instead of rewarding, I started to ask for her hindquarters to yield a little bit more until we got a good step, and then she got to relax. And if you didn't watch the other videos yet, what I'm looking for is for her front end to pivot around and her hind to cross over. Now this is the 2nd day, I do believe, working on getting those shoulders to move over. And we're definitely getting some nice crossover steps now. Most horses want to push forward out of this, but she does have that backing up problem, so this is actually kind of easy for her to work on right now because she doesn't really have that urge to walk forward out of it. She would rather stay where she is. And we're going to refresh on our backup. So these are pretty much the same exercises I did yesterday. I like to warm my horses up with these, and her backup was a lot straighter today. So back to those pole releases. She's already willing to keep her head a little bit lower for longer, so we'll increase that in little increments. Now to some desensitizing. She was a little worried the other days with me patting on her neck and her body, So I'm gonna make sure that we're all right with that today. And what I'm actually starting to do too, if you notice my hand on the lead rope, was I was trying to get her to lower her head at the same time, so it worked as relaxation. When she felt the padding, she learned to lower her head, so I'm gonna start training that cue. And right here I look kind of a little insane, but just more desensitizing, hopping around her, getting her used to my body moving, reaching over her, more padding. So this video is going to be a lot of me jumping and kind of looking like a big goof around my horse. I do this in hopes that I'm getting them a little bit more bomb-proofed, for people that like that word, and more safe and used to movement. She's not a super spooky horse, so this isn't too difficult for her. And now I'm just touching her flank area and grabbing it a little bit. Some horses get caught off guard by that. She had no reaction to it, which is really nice. I like to do that before I get on them. She got a little worried at that first time that I jumped up on her side. So right now I'm not jumping over. I'm just getting her used to that feeling of my body against her side. And it's supposed to look super sloppy because I don't want to be tiptoeing around my horse and just being very gentle and careful with everything I'm doing with her. I want to make sure that she's there for all of it and she knows what's happening, and I'm exaggerating my movements. So now we're back to saddling up, working on that saddle pad on both sides, and I'm not holding the lead rope now, so she can walk away if she wants. You can see she's flinching a little bit. She's tensing up. But she still stood there for the saddle pad. So now we'll go to the saddle, move it around her again some. She got a little bit worried by the padding noise on it, so she walks off. So then I really flap it, not to scare her away, but to be like, yep, it makes noise. And I left this in, that way you just would know it wasn't cropped. So I'm able to draw her back in by working on that backup that I believed we just touched on maybe on day 2 or 3 when I did that funneling exercise with the whips with her. And then I let her touch it with her nose, sniff it, check it out, know it's okay, and now she's all set to stand there. That's another reason I like to make sure before I put my body on my horse that they can stand there without me having to hold them or have them tied up to tack them up. I want to make sure that they're actually comfortable with the tack and they're not just in that freeze state. And now we have the girth on. She took one step, but that's not too big of a deal. Again, just like yesterday, I want to send her out right away in case she does have a reaction. I don't put it past them to not have a reaction the first 10 times or so that I saddle them, because it's still new to them. Even if she was great the day before, it might hit her in a different spot today. She reacted good, had a decent hindquarter yield. I'm just going to tighten it up one more hole and then we'll get to the trot. So today we didn't have a reaction again, which was super nice. Today we just stick at the walk and the trot with the saddle on. And back to that desensitizing by patting on that saddle. And I want her to be able to move away. I'm not gonna really restrict that movement. You can see my rope is nice and loose. She could totally turn and fully move away if she wanted, but she's choosing to yield her hindquarters, which is really nice to see. And as soon as she stops her feet and relaxes, I'll take away that pressure. I really like the English saddles because I feel like I can slap the stirrups a lot better on them than I can on a Western saddle. And I was going to stand up in the stirrups, but then I decided it wasn't the safest thing because I am in completely flat sneakers. So I do not recommend starting a horse in tacking sneakers or riding in sneakers at all. It's not super safe. You want to make sure you have a heel on your boot that you're wearing. So instead of stepping up in the stirrup, I just put the weight of my hands in the stirrups and tried to mimic the weight of one side going on her. She did well with that. Another thing I like to do is anytime that I take the saddle off for the first 5 times or so, I'll chuck that saddle pad back up there just to make sure that they're comfortable with something going back up. They don't feel like they're holding all that tension until it comes off. And now that we're untacked, I may have to mute this part so I don't get a copyright strike. Something else I really like to do is, I think I started doing this with Fiesta, is I like to play music in my phone and put it above my horse's head, kind of to be where, you know, I would be talking when I'm on them or making noise when I'm on them. Because anyone who rides with me or knows me pretty well knows that I always work horses with music. I'm always riding with music. Almost every single horse's first ride, I'm already playing music in my pocket. So I kind of got into it, and I may have played like 3 or 4 songs and just really annoyed this poor horse and got her used to this movement and music. And you could tell at the beginning she was a little worried, but then she realized, okay, maybe all humans are this weird. She's not trying to hurt me. I'll just tolerate it. So now I'm getting a little bit more weight on her back. I'm being kind of extreme with my jumps, so she's not worried about all the motion over there. And that's my first time kind of laying across her back like that. She had all my weight. And I'm making sure to touch her leg and the girth area with my other hand so she can see me on both sides. That time she took a step, but I'll give it to her because I did swing my legs an extra time and kind of shook her off balance. And she didn't think to take off, so that was cool to see. So I did this a lot. I'm not going to show every single time. Right now you can see I'm rubbing her with my leg, rubbing her all over with my hand, and when I get off I'm going to rub my hand over her hind end, kind of to mimic if someone were to drag their foot off when they get off. And I was just about to end the session, but I just wanted to check on these front legs, see if we could pick them up still. She had one snort when I picked up that right front, but not a big deal. Now I want to look at those hind legs a little bit. This is one of the things. It's not my favorite part, teaching them to pick up their hind legs. You just never know. I'll definitely have to get to this in the next week, but for right now I'm getting her used to the touch with the ribbon wand on them, and she's actually having a really good response. Right now, I think she's honestly thinking I'm asking her to move her hindquarters, so I'm just waiting it out. She's not reacting with her hind legs or kicking out at all. But again, this tool is great because it really gets them used to feel, and it's a heavy enough rod where I can touch and make it feel more like a hand rather than a light lunge whip touching back there. I feel like a lot of the session today, I wasn't really holding on to that rope. I feel like most of the session today, I wasn't really holding on to that rope too much, giving her that option to leave or go away, which I like to be able to give them when I feel like I have a space that's safe enough to do it in.
Probably one of the shorter sessions, but she did really good and pretty much passed everything that I wanted to do with her. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and subscribe if you want to see more content.